homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. I am making some pork lettuce wraps for dinner tonight. And this is a really quick, simple meal that you can do with whatever you happen to have on hand. It doesn't have to be made with pork, although that is my personal choice. And we are just going to saute and brown this pork along with some nice Asian spices, and then put it in lettuce wraps. It's a nice, healthy fall dinner. So to start out here, I'm just going to brown this pork up, get it going, while I'm cutting up the rest of the veg. This is local pork. I buy a half a pig, usually every year, although I did not buy one this year because I bought a quarter of a cow, and that took up all the room I had. And to this, we're going to mix in some garlic and some ginger. I'm going to do green onion and carrot, and one jalapeno pepper as a little bit of heat. And I don't really have a recipe for this. I just kind of put together what sounds good and what I'm cleaning out of my fridge. So we'll see what happens. I've got a couple of carrots here from my garden. I had really terrible carrot germination in the spring, and then I tried to do a late fall crop, and of course got them in a little bit too late. And so while I got a few, most of what's out there is going to be too late for the season. It's now kind of mid-November, and we've gotten some really cold nights. We got down to 21, and it's not going to be much better the rest of this week. And then once we get to the end of November, our day length starts to get below 10 hours, and nothing really actively grows when your day length is that short. And so not only is the soil too cold for anything to really get going, but the day length is just too short. And so whatever's left out there, even if it's surviving the cold, is not going to actively grow until we get back to 10 hours again, which is about mid-February. So when people talk about winter gardening, you'll hear a lot on, gardening groups and forums and things about winter gardening. For us in this part of the world, we're in Walla Walla, Washington, so the northern part of the U.S. It's really, if we do any kind of winter gardening, it's really more winter holding pattern, where things are frost tolerant and they won't necessarily die, and they might hold for later harvest, but they're not going to grow, even with row protection. I do have some good thick row crop covers, and yeah, even with that, I don't get any kind of active growth after about this time of year. But I figure we'll use up what few carrots we did manage to get, and then I'm going to throw in one organic carrot from the store. I have a local farm who grows really great carrots, and I've been waiting to buy a bunch from him until after we got a frost, because carrots are so much more tasty if they've had a frost before you pick them. It sweetens them up because they go into a dormancy where they're pulling all of the energy that they have in their leaves is getting pulled back down into the root of the plant for storage for the winter, and that's the mode they go into once they've had a frost. And so they are so much sweeter. Isn't this a cool little tool? I got this idea from a fellow YouTuber, and it's a little fiddly, but it's really fun for making thin shavings of stuff. And it was, those other carrots were too small to be able to do it well, and so I just didn't bother. But chunk of something stuck in there. There we go. Let me give that meat a stir. I'm just going to put a splash of this in here. This is a dipping sauce that is almost entirely soy sauce that I made for something quite a while ago. And so it'll be a good way to use that. Whenever I'm doing Asian cooking, I like to use soy sauce instead of salt. because it's basically the same thing, and then you're getting that soy flavor in there as well. So if you have an issue with soy, you can always try coconut aminos. Very popular with people that are avoiding soy for whatever reason in their diet, and so that's a good alternative. All right, I need to turn this up so that we can drive off some of that moisture and get a little browning. Do a quick julienne on the rest of this one carrot. This is our ginger. And if you've ever seen one of these, this is a ginger grater. There are many ways to do ginger. I often just put it on my rasp grater. But if it's fresh, this works quite well. And it's basically just a little ceramic thing with teeth, and it grinds it right up. I find that ginger is really fibrous, and there's almost always one direction where it shreds easier than another direction. And so sometimes the trick is just turning it and figuring out which way it wants to go. But I love ginger. It's one of my very favorite things to cook with. See, I'm going dead on the end there, and it's definitely harder to do. And once I turn to the side, it's just gonna go right through that. A lot of chefs and YouTubers are no longer peeling their ginger. They're just using it with the skin on. I can't quite bring myself to do that. Not because I don't think the outside is edible, I know it is, but I just think about how many hands have touched that hand of ginger before it got to me, and the fact that it's not an easy thing to clean, and I like to peel them. So this was probably about a tablespoon of ginger altogether. I never measure it. It's one of those things that I don't think you can have too much of, and so I just don't worry about it. If you have a tiny bit of other liquid that's going into this recipe, if you just pour it over this, that extra will come right off of there. So we'll give that a minute. I also need some fresh garlic. We'll see what this looks like. This got left out on my porch with the frost. Hopefully it's not totally destroyed. We just finished planting the last of our garlic today. We are way behind. I made the mistake of deciding early in the season that I was going to put the garlic where the peppers had been, and then we didn't get a frost, and we didn't get a frost, and we didn't get a frost, and so the peppers kept producing, and so I didn't want to tear out the peppers in order to put the garlic in, and I waited way too long. I should have torn them out. And so, yeah, literally I think today was the last day we could have put the garlic in, but we did get it in. So we have 300 feet of garlic, and each one of those 100-foot rows is a double row. So we've got 600 feet of garlic, and I've got a bunch of fun varieties. I mostly grow in Chilean red and Spanish Roja. Those are my two favorites, and I've been growing those for probably 15 years. But every year I like to try a few new things. I'm trying elephant garlic for the first time this year. That's going to be fun. And then I'm also trying, I have a new Asian variety called, I think it's Thai purple. So I'm excited to try that. This is a little jalapeno. It sounds like we're starting to get a little sizzle in there, which is a good indication that that moisture has cooked off. Give that one more good stir. And if I remember right, that dipping sauce that I poured in here had a little bit of ginger and maybe some mirin in it as well. I can't remember. It's been a long time. The ingredients were things that were all shelf stable, and so I just threw it back in the fridge. And yeah, so, but Asian flavors, that's all I'm really looking for. It should work fine. Getting a nice little brown on there, so we're getting where we want to be. I probably won't get much more life out of these jalapenos. They've been in my fridge for a week or two, and they're probably not going to store a whole lot longer, but I just I hate to see the last of the fresh garden produce get used. It gets so rewarding to be cooking things fresh out of my garden. All right, let's get that garlic in there. And you never want to put garlic in right at the beginning of when you're cooking something like this, if you're sauteing, because it will burn. And garlic, when you put it through a press like this, it's really tiny, and so there's not a whole lot there, and it burns really quickly. And burned garlic tastes bitter and kind of nasty. And so if you ever run across a recipe online and it has you put the garlic in at the beginning, just ignore that and put it in once everything else is kind of browned and ready to go. And they always tell you to just stir it in, and then like when you really start to smell it, that's when you know it's time to add the other ingredients, which is typically 30 seconds to a minute. It doesn't take very long for that to heat and that raw flavor to get cooked out of there. This looks good. Smells really, really good right now. All right, let's put in our carrots. Oops. And one of the inspirations for this recipe tonight is that I have some beautiful butterhead lettuce left over from the garden that I wanted to use. Some of it is that I have a freezer full of ground pork, and some of it is I have leftover peanut sauce from a recipe that I did last week. And peanut sauce is a really great dipping or sauce to put on this for any kind of a lettuce wrap. And so mostly I'm trying to use up the peanut sauce, but it's all gonna be tasty. I'm gonna turn that down just a little bit. And I am really terrible, you guys, about mise en place, which is when you get everything chopped and ready to go before you start cooking. Here, I'm just gonna do a little of this and rinse off. See how that rest of that ginger just rinsed right off of there? Very handy. Yeah, I find the thing about mise en place to be tedious because you have to do everything before you start cooking, and so you're adding time to the meal. I really like to get things going and then be chopping other vegetables while things are starting to cook already. So yeah, I'm terrible about cutting everything up ahead of time. All right, we need some green onion in here. And these are the green onions that, if you've watched my Waldorf salad video, these are the green onions that were left over from that video that I peeled at the same time. I still have a lot in my walk-in as well, so we'll do a green onion scallion pancake recipe coming up as well, just as a way of using up a lot of those. This is an instance where I'm going to use the white part now, and then I will save the green part to stir in right at the end as a bit of a garnish. Other things that would be good in this are some really finely chopped broccoli or some bell pepper. I thought about both of those things. I'm going to keep it pretty simple tonight, but I do have both of those things in my fridge as well. So really it's just kind of whatever you like. The one problem I often have is that I throw so many veggies in it that I kind of lose track of the pork, and so I'm trying to keep it simple and not overdo too much vegetable. I definitely feel like this needs a bigger hit of chilies. This is my own chili garlic paste, although actually this is a combination of my own and then 2 different store-bought containers that I happen to have, and I just mixed them all together so that I was consolidating containers in the fridge. One of them is a fermented chili paste, so that'll add a little bit of funk. Here's some inspiration. This is a plum sauce, Asian plum sauce, that I made from plums this year, and it's a ball recipe. I'll mention in the description which book it came out of. And I had a little bit of extra when I was making it that was not enough for a full jar. That'll be fun. And it has just a touch of 5-spice powder in it. So this is gonna add some sweet and some extra layer of flavor. I thought about just mixing some of the peanut sauce into this as well, but I think with that plum sauce, that's gonna be enough, and then the peanut sauce will go on top. Yeah, that touch of sweetness is really nice in that. Okay, this is a cast iron pan. This is gonna hold the heat for quite a while. I'm just gonna, everything in here is cooked, and I don't mind if those carrots have a little bit of crunch still. So I'm gonna turn the heat off. I will sprinkle the rest of our onions on top, and they can just sit in that heat. And then we'll get our lettuce ready. This is our pretty little head of butterhead lettuce. Last lettuce of the season. It was interesting. I started all this from seed at this exact same time that I started the lettuce that's in my green stock. And it really shows you the limitations of the green stock. I mean, they have a lot of really good pluses, but there's not a lot of room for roots, and I have one of the more shallow green stalks too. It's not one of the ones with the really deep pockets, and you can definitely see, like, this is a really nice, good-sized head of lettuce put in the ground about the same time as the ones that went into the green stock. The green stock ones are clearly stunted by just probably not having enough nutrition in that soil. I try really hard to keep it fertilized, but it's not an easy thing to do. And then I think there's just not enough room. So what we're doing here is just cleaning each individual leaf. And as I get to the center of this, they will be too small, probably to use as a lettuce wrap, but we'll use them in salads, and so nothing's gonna go to waste here. These guys are so delicate, but at the same time, I just love the flavor. I actually really love how delicate they are. And so for me, I know not a lot of people love to grow butterhead, but I adore it. All right, I think we're gonna stop there, and I'll save this for salads. All right, we're just gonna give this a quick spin to get the water off of there. Trying not to crush the leaves. Should do that. Okay. So there's our lettuce. This looks awesome. The other thing that would be good in this would be cabbage or bok choy. I could have also done that. A lot of options for vegetables to go into this. And if you Google, you know, lettuce wrap recipes, you'll find lots of inspiration, which is kind of how I've learned to not follow a recipe on this and to just wing it. But if you want more specifics, you can definitely Google this and find all kinds of good ideas. And just for a nice additional garnish and a visual, I'm going to put a little sprinkling of sesame on this. And this is sesame that I grew this year, which was really fun. It's a really pretty little plant. The harvesting of the seed itself is very fussy, so definitely not an easy thing to do, but really just a fun project as a homesteader. Okay, so I've got my lettuce. I've got my nice stir-fried pork here. This is the peanut sauce. I can link to this if you guys want. There's a million recipes for peanut sauce out there. This was a shrimp salad peanut sauce dressing that fellow YouTuber Brian Lagerstam had done, and I had some left over, and so that's where that came from. But his recipe is on his YouTube channel, and I believe it was, he's done a series called Big Ass Salads, and I think it was Big Ass Salad 3 that had it was like a Thai shrimp salad. It was excellent, really, really good. I have come to really trust him for dressings. He makes incredible dressings. Every one I've tried has been good. One more. And I'm just gonna, my husband is in the middle of a gaming thing, and so I will just let him know that dinner is ready and he can come and get his own when he has a break. But here we go. So there you go, really quick pork lettuce wraps with peanut dressing. Very nice, lighter fall meal if you've just kind of overdone yourself with rich soups and stews. Super yummy. And I'm using my butterhead lettuce out of the garden. Very last lettuce out of the garden, so kind of a win. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you enjoy this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up, make a comment, and subscribe if you want to see what I've got coming up next. We'll see you next time.